Hey peeps, Sarah here from Sparrow Springs, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am working on a watercolor landscape painting of a picture that I took in the Badlands in western North Dakota. And I have a little story time for you regarding that. I absolutely love the Badlands and figured I would try my hand at recreating it in a watercolor, which I have to admit was a challenge. Just a fair warning, this painting looks like a mess for a large chunk of this video, which I will get into in a second. But first, today is day 7 of my Tube-tober challenge, where I am posting one video a day for the month of October. If you want to know more about that, I will leave a link to the video in the description. So if you are new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications to see all of those new videos. So I ran into a few challenges with this painting for a couple reasons. Now, I don't usually have trouble with landscapes, but I think I was focusing too heavily on the details of the photo and losing track of the composition as a whole. Secondly, the lighting of the photo was very dark, and it felt like no matter how dark I mixed the watercolor, I wasn't happy with it. So to be honest, it might have been better to do this as an acrylic painting since watercolor is so translucent. I also ran into trouble because I'm trying to use up the last of my cheap watercolor paper. If you don't know this, paper, especially with watercolor, makes a huge difference. So I was experiencing some kind of tearing towards the end, and there was a bit of struggle through this, and I probably overworked it, but I finished off with something I was okay with. Not the best, but I may try this again. You guys get it all, successes and failures. My dissatisfaction may be in because I love the Badlands so much and I feel it didn't do it any justice. I have a lot of fond memories of the landscape and the summer weather. As a kid, my dad didn't live too far from Medora, so we would take a day trip and go hiking around the area, mainly the Painted Canyon. North Dakota summers usually aren't too brutal in the terms of heat in comparison to other places anyways. So I grew up being fairly familiar with the area, and then when I got my horse, it added a whole nother layer of memories. My current horse, Tico, I got her when she was only 2. It was a super dumb decision. I was still in high school. It was probably 2 years after I had to put my last horse down. My last horse was a seasoned, completely trained gelding. Then I didn't ride at all for 2 years after that. And then I bought an untrained 2-year-old filly. Most people don't know this, but I had another untrained filly before my gelding, and she was bad news. She was pretty aggressive and definitely not suited for my level of experience. So you think I would have learned the first time, and when I got Tico, I know some of my horse friends were definitely shaking their head at me. So Tico, I had muddled through her training for a couple years and not really having much luck. She also seemed aggressive and she would kick at me, bite, pin her ears at me, and not just me, but other people as well. I was pretty close to throwing in the towel and selling her, and other people were in agreement that that was a smart thing to do. At this point, I had recently dropped out of college and was working full-time. My employer, now friend, let me keep Tico at her place, and my coworker at the time also had her horse out there, so I had help from people. Another friend who was a horse trainer came out to help me and just take a look at her. She worked with her for a few minutes, and Tico showed some of the same behavior, but my friend corrected it pretty quickly, and Tico submitted. She was calm, listening. I had my concerns, and my friend addressed it pretty plainly, basically saying, "Your horse is smart. She's not a bad horse, and I don't think you need to sell her, unless you're scared of her, because she knows that, and she needs someone to be in charge." Now, I didn't really know how to take that. I was scared of her, but I didn't want to sell her just because I couldn't get my emotions under control. So I continued to work with her, continued to struggle through her training. Friends would point out bad behavior, tell me to correct her, and tell me not to be scared of her. I should also note here that Tico is an Arabian saddlebred paint cross. Most of my friends had quarter horses. So to be a hot-blooded horse in the middle of a bunch of docile cow horses was not a favorable experience. If her ears flicked the wrong way, if she carries her tail too high, if she spooks at a paper bag, so much energy. So, keeping this in mind as I continue my story, there were things that I was correcting as far as behavior that I would later find out was actually just her trying to communicate with me. Animals are not always black and white. So this seems like a tangent, but it's not. So basically, I can barely ride this horse. She's young, energetic, and my friends suggest you should take her out west. We should go to Little Missouri State Park and go riding. Okay. I know what the terrain looks like, and this horse that has a history of kicking, biting, and in general not listening to me, I'm afraid of her, and you want me to trust her on the edge of a cliff and steep ridge lines with slippery shale rocks. What could go wrong? But I went along with it. Why? I don't know. So we pack up everything for a 5-day trip. I almost called it quits because she wouldn't get in the horse trailer. I think it took us an hour to get her in. She didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. This would be great. But we got camp settled and our first ride was in the plans. I went with one gal, and to be honest, she was great. She had an Arabian, so I think she kind of understood quite well. Her horse was probably more energetic than Tico. So as we got going, the first thing I had noticed is that Tico was tossing her head like crazy. Now, previous experience had told me that this is bad behavior. Correct her. So I was going to, but I stopped to assess the situation because she had never done this before. Right before we left, I was told I needed a curb strap to go under her chin so that the bridle wouldn't slip off if something happened. So that's what I did, and she wasn't used to it. So I took it off, and the head tossing stopped. So this was the first time something clicked in my head. So next we come up to a stream, and she starts pawing the ground. In the past, people said that this was bad behavior, and to correct it. But I stopped. I let her think about the situation. I realized that she wasn't pawing to show attitude. She was frustrated or confused. She knew that I wanted her to cross the water, but she was afraid because her experience says, I've never seen this before. It looks dangerous. But after watching her Arabian gelding friend cross a couple times, she made an effort. Mind you, it was a compromise for both of us. She leaped over the water instead of walking through it. Okay, I wanted her on the other side. She didn't want to touch the water. I'll deal with it later. Obstacle by obstacle, we learned to work together and listen over a wooden bridge, the water tanks, the steep hills. The poor girl was out of shape. She got to the top of the hill and just stopped and breathed. At one point, she had been walking along a ledge. She was enjoying looking at everything, and suddenly she looked down and she froze, like she didn't realize there was a ledge there. Again, we worked through everything. I couldn't really believe that this was the same horse. She was great. Even when we got back to camp, she never pinned her ears back, never bit, never kicked. Nothing. After the 5 days, we packed everything up and headed home. And I remember the day after we got back, I had gone to clean out the horse trailer, and when I opened the trailer door, she ran across the field and was dancing at the fence line in excitement because she thought we were going back out again. I kind of felt bad. But, I mean, that horse has never been the same, in a good way. Now she's attached to my hip when I'm out in the pasture. She's gentle, submissive, eager to do pretty much anything with me. Some people have trouble getting their horse to come in out of the pasture to go ride. Not her. She loves getting out. So it made more sense to me afterwards. My horse trainer friend said she was smart. Smart horses need a job, and herd animals need a leader. So when I learned to be confident enough to know when she needed to be corrected and to know when she needed me to approach something different and communicate more clearly, everything fell into place. I've ridden her without a saddle and bridle because we've worked so much on it. She learned how to bow, to come when called, and other fun things, just anything to give her something to think about. So this image was a picture I took during one of our trips to the Badlands, just outside of our cabin view. So it reminds me of all that, and the Lord has literally given me the best horse I have ever ridden, and I can't wait to teach Arrow how to ride on her. I'm so excited. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton. And that's all for now, peeps. I will see you in the next video.